In today's episode of the Second Swing Thoughts podcast, we have some more updates from professional golf as the Ryder Cup nears. We have the biggest event in amateur golf that just concluded with the U.S. Amateur. And then we're also going to dive into a pretty significant iron launch with Tom Fisher at Titleist to talk through the T-Series. So we've got a ton packed into this episode of Second Swing Thoughts. Hey golfers, and welcome into another episode of Second Swing Thoughts. Sean Bauer with me here in the studio for yet another one, and we're kind of getting into a sweet spot of the year for golf where we've got playoffs going on. We just wrapped up one of my favorite events of the year, the U.S. Am. And then we've also got the Ryder Cup right around the corner. So we have a lot of things to talk about. Plus, we had a pretty big iron launch to go over here with Tom Fisher. So that'll be a fun interview. Of course, we love talking to Tom about all things Titleist. So stay tuned for that as well.
Yeah, I mean, the new T-Series irons, they look really, really sharp. Mm-hmm. Obviously, they don't change a ton with some of the irons, but then there are some significant changes with other irons.
Yes.
So pretty interesting to hear what went into that from Tom, and always enjoy having him on the show. But yeah, let's get right into professional golf here to start the turn. Shockingly, Scottie Scheffler won another tournament. The guy's just a machine. Wins the BMW. Awesome chip shot there on 17 there on Sunday to kind of put it away. Mm-hmm. And, I felt a little bad for Bobby McIntyre because I like him as a golfer. And I thought he was getting some unfair treatment from some of the fans just because with the Ryder Cup,
it's good prep for him.
He also kind of embraced it. I mean, he made a putt there. I was watching on Saturday, especially. I remember he made a putt and he pointed out to the guy and gave him the shush sign. And Scotty. The guy is just unreal. He's Rory McIlroy in the beginning of the year, I thought maybe it was like catching Scotty, and then Scotty just put that argument. I mean, he's so much better than everyone else right now.
Yeah, and I think this is the first time, not the first time, but it's so many of his wins are like by so many shots. Like he'll win by 3 or 4 or 5. He'll be comfortably ahead. Whereas this one was a little bit different. He was trailing going into the final day, and McIntyre helped him out a little bit, kind of coming back to him a little bit with a few bogeys to start the round. But Scotty having this come from behind win, the huge clutch chip shot on 17 is one of those. We haven't seen that crazy clutch, quote unquote, Tiger moment very often from him. I would probably think back to maybe, winning the gold medal at the Olympics, the way he did there with that back nine on Sunday. This is similar to that, where he absolutely had to have it on Sunday, and he delivered. And so, the guy's untouchable right now. Very far and away the best player on the planet. And I just love how dominant he is in every aspect. I think this week he was number 1 off the tee. He was number 5 on approach, number 1 around the greens. Right there. I mean, he's top 5 at worst from every category tee to green, which is untouchable. Like nobody's gonna compete with something like that. Yeah. So kudos to him. And that alone, leads me to believe the U.S. Ryder Cup team will have a solid chance, even if you don't feel as confident about some of the other auto qualifiers here, which we'll get to shortly. But the guy's unbelievable.
Yeah, I always think it's funny when people are like, he doesn't have those clutch Tiger moments. It's like, well, some of Tiger's most memorable performances are, and he just lapped the field, right?
Right.
And Scotty's, he's not winning by 15 strokes at Pebble Beach, but he's comfortably winning. And then you mentioned the Olympics, like people forget he was trailing coming down that back nine and then just caught fire.
Yep.
I also think his first Masters victory, that chip in
he had on 3, yep.
It's like him and Cam Smith were a little shaky at the start, and then boom, he chips in, and all of a sudden it just changes the whole complexity of the tournament.
And we have a lot of Scottie Scheffler left to watch, and you're totally right. Like Tiger has so many of those wins where he just dominated, and I think Scotty has a little bit of that, and I think as we get more of Scheffler, I don't see him leaving that top spot anytime soon, but so he'll be in contention a lot more, and he'll have so many more opportunities for kind of these thrilling finishes. So, but the guy's fun to watch. He's a machine. Yeah,
so he's setting himself up, coming into form for the Tour Championship this week, or the FedEx Cup will be determined.
Yep.
Speaking of, on the other playoffs on Live Golf, you had a little bit of controversy in the golf world because John Rahm ends up winning the individual title for the season, yet he never won a single tournament.
Yeah, so there's I mean, and I'm kind of in the camp where I don't know if there's a right way to do playoffs or kind of a season-long competition, so to speak. In golf, it's what's the best way to quantify points and what matters more. You have PGA Tour has signature events, which mean a lot more. But I'll say this: it's odd to have a guy in Rahm who did not win a single event individually this year to be your individual champion when there's another guy in Joaquin Niemann who won it 5 times or won 5 events this year, and somehow Rahm beats him. And I know you can talk about, Rahm finishing top 10 every week, that, whether you think that's impressive or not, depending on the field over there, is what it is. But there has to be a lot more of an emphasis on winning golf tournaments. And so you can say what you want to about the PGA Tour setup, and this week now at the Tour Championship, the guy that's 30th in the standings in theory has the same shot to win and won it all as Scottie Scheffler does, but they still have to win this week at East Lake to claim the Tour Championship and the FedEx Cup top prize. They still have to win a tournament, whereas Rahm did not have to. So it's odd, and I think he even kind of noted that, like he was asked about it. He called it bittersweet, which should not be what someone's thinking when they win a season-long individual race.
If only there was a format where guys could go and play each other head to head.
Yeah.
Get some match play. I mean, I know we get it at the Ryder Cup and the President's Cup, but get some match play going in these playoffs. Make it, you play well during the regular season, you set yourself up with an easier path to the championship, but then just beat each other head to head.
I think Live 2 has the best opportunity for that because it's such a top-heavy field where you'd get the biggest names in that field, where a lot of these guys that are on Live that don't contend a lot or aren't really competitive anymore, you'd get the top, say, 8 guys, and they're all big names for the most part, that'd play against each other, and it would be a lot more interesting. But again, there's something with, I don't know what it is with these tours and trying to eliminate match play. The PGA Tour has had match play in a few years now. I would love to know what the rationale is, because it kind of transitioned to the Ryder Cup here, where match play is such a thrilling component of the golf.
Well, and like my thought is, golf is unique from other sports in that its biggest tournaments aren't the playoffs, right? It's the 4 majors. But if you want to make the playoffs stand out, you got to make them something different, in my opinion. You have 72 or 54 hole tournaments going on all year. Make your championship, your playoff, your final event, make it something different. And we're going to talk about the U.S. Amateur and why I think it's just a phenomenal format. And maybe that's you don't have to go with that many players and that many, rounds, but it's a format that they could almost, modify to fit.
Yeah.
Where it's like, the top 16 from this week advance into a little match play tournament, and then boom, there's your FedEx Cup champion, whatever. But yeah, let's get talking about Ryder Cup. 6 auto qualifier spots now locked up for the U.S., 5 for the Europeans. In the U.S., obviously, you have Scheffler, J.J. Spawn, Xander Schauffele, Bryson DeChambeau, Harris English, Russell Henley. And on the Euros, you have Rory McIlroy, Bobby McIntyre, Tommy Fleetwood, Justin Rose, Tyrrell Hatton. Shane Lowry holding on to that 6th and final spot, though Rasmus Højgaard has a chance. I think he has to finish 29th or better this week over on the DP World Tour, and he will bump Lowry off from the auto qualification.
Yeah, which I'm sure Lowry will be picked regardless.
I don't know.
But
he
hasn't been awesome.
Him and Colin Morikawa on the U.S. side both of them are trending in the wrong direction.
You know who else is that auto qualified for the U.S. is Xander Schauffele. He has not played great golf.
I think that rib injury just has messed him up. Yeah. And after having such a great year last year, winning 2 majors, but he's been historically a pretty good Ryder Cup player.
Yeah. Again, if it came down to some sort of captain's pick, if he hadn't auto qualified, I think it'd be fair to select him. But I also wanted to point out, impressive for Bryson to make the top, pretty easily make the auto qualifying spot, just where the majors count. Nothing else. Yeah. It's that's pretty impressive by him. And I think people, I think there's some U.S. fans or some Team USA supporters that are kind of like Harris English, Russell Henley. they're not the biggest personalities. They don't have very big brands for themselves. But in terms of like ball strikers, like this is a group of players right here. Scotty Scheffler, of course. JJ Spawn has been
he's been great,
phenomenal ball striker this year. Xander, of course, a little bit of a downhill slide here in 2025, but when he's on his game, he's up there with the best. Bryson, of course, we know what his game is. And then English and Henley are phenomenal iron players. Yeah. And, of course, English has a couple really good finishes this year in majors, so I think they're poised to do really well and handle kind of the pressure of this golf.
Yeah, and like I know John Rahm, I mean, I know he's not going to get an auto qualifier spot, but he'll be on the European team. It's going to be interesting. I think a lot of people still think like U.S. is almost always favored on paper. This year, I feel like more people think like Europeans are going to just wipe the floor with them. I don't think that's the case. I think the U.S. always play much better on your home course. Like people forget, like, the U.S. lost in Italy, but they absolutely destroyed Europe when it was at Whistling Straits, the most lopsided win
and the home
in
team
history.
gets to set the course up to what suits the team best. So I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, I can't wait. It's my favorite. It might be my favorite sporting event.
It's going to be a lot of fun. I will say this, too. This is going to sound a little backwards as an American golfer and rooting for Team USA. I think Justin Rose is my favorite golfer. Dude, I love that guy. And it's going to – I just know when it's Ryder Cup time, he's going to make clutch putt after clutch putt after clutch putt. And I'm going to weirdly enjoy it. Obviously, I'm not rooting for Team Europe, but I'm going to – watching him just settle in on these moments where he's got a 10-footer, a 12-footer, and he needs to have it, and he does it every time.
Yeah, I mean,
it's going to be fun.
Last Ryder Cup, he was just anytime they needed a putt from him, it went in.
Right, and he was not nearly in the form then that he is now.
So it'll be interesting to see. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see who becomes the 6 captain picks on each side. I know there'll be some controversy because you have some guys that haven't been in form this year, but they've been historically good at the Ryder Cup. Patrick Cantlay. So we'll see. It'll be interesting, and then we can debate those. Maybe I forget when they announce the exact day, but maybe if it's after next week's episode,
of course. Also, the elephant in the room is Keegan Bradley. Is he going to pick himself?
I don't think he is anymore.
Yeah, I know he hasn't had he's probably he probably wanted to kind of prove. I think maybe one more really good finish down the stretch
if
here.
He wins this week,
so.
He'll probably make it, but
I still think I'd pick him if it was like me and I was trying to be like an objective, like third party, and somehow I was bestowed upon this this choice of here's who I'd pick. I think I would have Keegan in there, but I know Rory made that comment about like I'm not sure it's like feasible to be a Ryder Cup playing captain today. So
when it sounds like if he does do it, he almost like they approved a rule where the vice captain then can kind of assume the captain's
and I'm sure Keegan also would like bring himself out of most rounds. He'd probably play a singles match and maybe 1 or 2 other matches and mostly be a captain. So anyway, that's Ryder Cup was going to be a lot of fun.
Ryder Cup from Team USA and Europe there to the U.S. Amateur. We had Mason Howell kind of dominate. He's a Georgia commit. 3rd youngest to ever win the U.S. Amateur, and he won the championship 7-6 over Jackson Harrington. Really, really impressive stretch of golf there. And then on a little fun note here for us in Minnesota, Jimmy Abdo, who's from Edina, plays for Gustavus Adolphus. If you don't know, it's a Division III college in St. Peter, Minnesota. He was ranked 4,000th something amateur in the world, and he makes it all the way to the quarterfinals before losing to the runner-up, Jackson Harrington. So
that's a really cool story. And I think it's the beautiful thing about USGA events, the match play element of it, where it becomes such a one-on-one piece because he got in to the match play portion through a playoff. So he had just enough of a performance in the stroke play portion to get in. And then when it's your match play, it kind of, it's not like it's kind of anyone's game in a sense. And he just got hot. There's probably a competitive edge mentally that he's obviously really strong with. So good for him. But I'll also add on Mason Howell. If you remember, he qualified for the U.S. Open earlier this year, and I believe he shot 263s on the 36-hole day, which is
pretty good.
So this guy seriously has some game, and he's already built quite a resume for himself just in 2025 here, and obviously he'll. I bet he makes some noise at the Masters next year.
Yeah, probably. But and then wrapping it up here and kind of leading into our interview, Titleist T-Series. Yeah. The 2025 versions will be the 4th generation.
Yeah, the 4th generation of the T-Series. It's gone through quite a makeover over the last now 6 years that there's been a T-Series iron. Things look a lot different, but I think the T250 specifically has a really cool story to it. So we get to hear the whole breakdown from Tom Fisher. We were at Titleist for this. He breaks everything down for us. Really good conversation here with Tom Fisher. We now welcome back on the Second Swing Thoughts podcast. This is Tom Fisher. Tom's been on the program many times, and we're also down at Titleist. This is fantastic. Really cool little studio here. Thank you for having us down here, and thanks for joining, Tom. We have some new clubs to talk about.
We do, Drew, yeah.
The new T-Series for 2025, the fourth generation. We've got a huge story to go through with these, but what has been the most exciting part that you've seen? Is it the tour adoption? Is it just what's new with the development and the tech? What's been the most exciting part for you?
Certainly starts with tour. You can kind of see the momentum building on tour as we're kind of getting up to the launch of these T-Series products, and really seeing kind of what Marnie and Chuck and the rest of the R&D team, seeing really all the tech and all the performance they put into these irons, and seeing the tour players just immediately kind of put them in their bag and seeing the excitement. So I'm excited for what's to come for this upcoming launch.
Yeah, so let's get right into it here and go into the products, and we're going to start with the T100. So T100 has been super successful now for many years. They've obviously there's been refinements to it. What's the story now? What's new with the 2025 or the fourth generation T100? And then we can also, I know the T150 is a similar construction, a lot of the same storylines there. So let's maybe bundle those together. And what's new with T100 and T150 in this generation?
Yeah, well, what's new with 100, 150 in terms of the goals of the product kind of also bleed into 250 and 350 as well. And it all really is influenced by the 3Ds. When we're even asked tour players, for any golfer for that matter, height is really important, right? Getting these balls higher in the air so the ball ultimately stops on the green. That steeper angle descent, which is one of the 3Ds that we talk about. And then we've added some technology into all of these irons that helps with distance control, right? So just making sure you can hit your number every single time, whether you're off from the tee, from the fairway, from the rough, from the bunker, because we know we hit it all over the face, but we also hit it from different parts of the golf course. And so there's some of the main real goals. And how Marnie's done it in the T1 and the 150, some new technology that's in there is, number one, we have a variable face thickness now, both in the 1 and the 150. And it's in that bottom cavity. You can obviously, you can't see the bottom cavity because obviously that back plate with the Titleist logo on. But that variable face technology is in there that you probably heard that we have in GT medals as well, which is that thick, thin face progression that just allows, better launch, better spin, and ball speed retention from those off-center shots. So that's pretty new. But the biggest technologies I think the tour players have really gravitated towards is this new groove story that we've got. So we've got these progressive grooves now that run all the way through our models, but the groove starts getting more aggressive in the 7 through wedges. And that's all about spin retention out of the rough and wet conditions. We all know there's flyers, and you can airmail the green from those fluffy or even thick lies. So how can we make sure that your distance is the same, your flight is the same from all parts of the golf course? So more aggressive groove has been really well adopted,
And one of the things that Lucas mentioned to me too, we were outside doing some testing as well, was the loft adjustment on the T100 and kind of how that came about with talking to both players on the LPGA Tour and on the PGA Tour, of how that moving it 1 degree stronger can actually help with both players seamlessly.
Yeah, you said it. T1 is, the most played model across all world tours and has been for a while. So we don't do anything to that product unless the tour team tells us to do it. So shape-wise, nothing changed in the one, but loft changed. So the T100, the new T100 is 1 degree stronger than 3G, right? And there's a really cool fitting story of why that came to be. So on the men's tours around the world, there was kind of an ask for more bounce, but in the old loft package. So what we can do now with the loft being 1 degree stronger, we can bend it back to 3G lofts for the men's tour, and then that will add the bounce that they were looking for. On the ladies' tours around the world, one of the most popular irons out there is the T100S. As you recall, the T100S is the 100 shape, but just 2 stronger. 150 replaced 100S, but that shape, as you remember, we made the top line a bit thicker, the sole a bit wider, and that shape didn't necessarily, blend or fit well for the ladies' eyes. So they always kept the 100S in. So now we can take the new lofts in the T100, bend it 1 degree strong, not really affect offset and bounce that much, which they actually wanted less bounce on these products. And there we go. You've got, those two options solved by putting the loft where we've got it. We can bend it weak for the men. We can bend it strong for the ladies, and everyone's happy.
And it also makes it easier for fitters from a fitting perspective to make a blended or a combo set as well, with the loft configurations being a little closer together, where a fitter can, blend a T150 and maybe, 4 or 5 iron and then have the rest be T100. It makes it a lot more seamless in that regard too.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, even though the T100 is 1 degree stronger, so 150 theoretically now is only 1 degree stronger than T1, you're still going to see that ball speed increase because of the muscle channel that we still have in the 150 that runs 3 through 7 iron. And then obviously the 150 is a little bit bigger. We've actually made 150 a bit bigger this time, not top line or sole width, but blade length. So 1 millimeter longer in blade length, which we believe makes the head actually proportionally better. If you thicken up the top line and don't extend the blade length, could it look a bit squashed? So by extending the blade length has really, really helped us.
Sure. And then, so now we got to get into what I'm kind of, I think, most excited about with this new T-Series is the T250.
Yeah.
So there has not been a T250 in the previous generations of the T-Series. So where did this come from? What's the backstory of implementing a T250, instead of another T200 or another T300 or whatever it might be?
Yeah. So, kind of similar to what we did with 150, right? 150 we made a little bit bigger versus T100S, so it was a new name. That's a little bit to do with 250 as well. Blade length 1.5 millimeters longer than T200, but you just got to look at the new construction, the new shape,
right?
And just really kind of giving this a brand new name, and it deserves it, right? Because you've got that full metal body construction. That's really obviously helping the overall design of the product. That satin finish as well that runs all the way through the lineup. Really clean. So blended sets are just going to be pretty seamless. But, obviously, mass properties help with this where we can really, move weight around, but also sound as well. So sound is a big deal for us. We really are pushing the envelope to kind of these feel better and better. And what Marnie and the team have done, with the acoustics of this product now with this full metal body construction is pretty awesome. So we're really excited about that player's distance iron in that 250 package. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks fantastic. I mean, I think, again, as I just was outside hitting them, it really looks from this perspective, that address angle, I mean, it looks like it fits right behind the T150, like in size. I mean, like I said, the whole thing blends really.
Yeah, I think that's also what Marnie does with that top line shaping. And like I said, again, that blade length, that subtle blade length change just proportionally just helps that type of shape as well as what we did 150. So you pull these down, 100, 150, 250, 350 down. I mean, not only visually from the back, but visually down. I mean, it's just so easy to blend these and none of them look way different in terms of like alien to the other, right? It's just very seamless. So really, really great job from the industrial design team to get that done.
So now T350. So there was there a T350 in this most recent?
The 300 came.
300, okay, that's what it was.
Came in Generation 2,
okay.
And then the last generation we did have a 350.
Yeah.
So just continuing with that name, but again, just no shape change. So hence why we didn't really change the name there. Just obviously big, a cosmetic change and that construction change, similar to what we did with 252. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's, I imagine, cater to that same golfer for the most part, right? The player that might be looking for speed, but also maybe some help on the mishits and really trying to launch the ball in the air with kind of the way the center of gravity is
yeah,
positioned.
Exactly. As you move through these irons, the face will get gradually faster, right? That's also part of our 3Ds, right? So, we want to make sure 5 miles an hour ball speed gap. So, you probably got fit today and have a break somewhere where you maybe need some more speed as you get to the longer irons. So hence why they are made faster as you go through the set, through the models. But again, for the type of player, maybe the moderate slow swing speed player or golfer who's looking for distance, 350 will be the fastest iron. It's got a driver type face technology in terms of its maxes the COR. But throughout our irons, we're not too worried about max distance, as you heard from Lucas when you're fitting today. We're about consistent distance, right? So what Marty does with all the tungsten we put in all of these models, face technology to make sure your ball speed, launch, and spin are consistent across the face. as well as max impact now still is in 250, 350. It's all about giving you speed, but giving you consistent speed, consistent distance. So,
Right.
yeah, but yeah, it will be the fastest and highest launching product in the lineup. We might have another one that might be slightly higher launching, which you
Yeah.
might want to talk about as well.
Yeah. So I wanted to make sure we got through the T350 because the T250 launch spec needs to be discussed as well.
Yeah.
So this is my understanding of it is it's the 250 build,
Yep. Nothing different.
but is at 35 degrees of loft.
Yep.
So, and is that the only difference to it really in terms of the build, or is there?
Yeah, it's lighter headweight as well.
Lighter
so
headweight,
I like to
okay.
say it's like the GT1 of irons, right? Lighter,
Okay.
helps you get the ball up in the air. Yeah, so it's 250, everything 250, right? Shape, top line, offset. We haven't taken the 250 and just bent it weaker and affected the offset and the bounce. No, it's a completely head made from scratch. So yeah, it's got you all the benefits, the speed, the forgiveness, the look of the 250, but weaker loft, like you said, 4.5 degrees weaker in loft on a 7 iron, so 35 degrees, like old school lofts, right? You know, and then a little bit lighter head weight. So, and that took a couple of years of extensive player testing, to be honest. You know, the player test team were out at TPI every day, and this was a big one for them to work on.
Yeah, and working with Lucas, the fitter, he mentioned specifically one group of golfers that's going to really benefit is like junior players that, you know, might be trying to graduate to, you know, maybe a formal quote unquote adult set, but they need something that can be a little helpful for them. And this seems like it's going to be perfect, you know, with the lighter weight and how you can, you know, go about the fitting process with them too.
Yeah, it's a good transition, right? You know, they want to play. 250 is a really forgiving, really, you know, easy club to hit, but it's also, you know, kind of that really lovely shape. So these junior players are somewhat aspirational, right?
Right,
So,
of course.
and they were part of our player test too. And we had a 350 launch spec that we made as well, but it was unanimous that everyone wanted the 250 shape.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So we did test both. And yeah, all this iron is all about height. So yes, slowest club head speed, moderate slow swing speeds are going to benefit great from this because they generate enough speed to get the launch. So the loft is really going to help them to do that. But if you also have speed and just don't, you know, have the right angle of attack into the golf ball and just struggle with peak height, you know, this iron you should be really looking at and testing because it will give you the height, it will give you the stopping power on the green. And if you get the right height, your distance isn't going to be really affected that much in terms of carry distance, which is the most important metric you should be looking at anyway.
Right. And so I did want to touch briefly on the utility irons or the long irons that are offered. So you have the T250U, and then there's also the U505, which has, I don't know if makeover is the right word, but there's certainly a new look to it that is certainly appealing. And again, in talking with Lucas, it seems like the look of that is almost, it mirrors the T350.
That's right.
In a sense. And then obviously the T250 is this, you know, similar. So like there's kind of a, you know, instead of making the long irons or you quote unquote utility irons, just this different build, make it look totally different. Again, it's almost like another piece to blend an iron set together.
Exactly. So T250U is basically the T250 shape, everything.
Yeah.
But you just can have it in a utility build, right? So it's a little bit of a heavier head weight because you're building it with a lighter utility shafts.
Sure.
So why would a golfer want that? Well, if they need to, you know, use a lighter shaft to help kick the ball up in the air or give you a bit more speed, we'll have a T250 build for you to do that. So again, that's all to do with that gapping and part of the 3D. So great addition or, you know, great option for fitters and golfers to have that in their bag. It will be a bit more of that mid to high launching utility. And then we move to the U505, right, which is the higher launching of the utilities. And historically, that head's been pretty big, right? It's been a little beefier, right? A little wider sole, a little bit of a thicker top line as well. And sometimes when you look down at it, you actually can kind of see that back badge, which, you know, for some players, it was a bit off-putting. So similar to, you know, 350, 250, we've got that brand new construction, right? Full metal body construction. But there's also Marnie's done some really cool subtle design changes. So that back of the club isn't really visible as much, certainly in the 1 and the 2, which still remains a little bit bigger because you need the CG to help get the ball in the air. But in the 3 and the 4, he's really made it look like a 350. And that was from a prototype we had on tour. We had a 350 utility build out on tour that we've been using and testing for about 18 months now.
Okay.
And a lot of, you know, very popular, got a lot of good feedback from that. So we kind of got some learnings from that CG and that shape and that design and just brought that into the U505. So yeah, it gets progressively smaller in terms of not necessarily blade length, but top line and sole width, to make it really look like that, really classic utility, but still giving you the high launch, but just obviously kind of that more 350 shape,
Right.
but with less offset, because you want these irons are really more geared to be paired with 100 and 150 type players.
Sure.
So you have less offset than the 350. But if you want offset, you've obviously got the 350 long irons you can put in your bag as well.
There you go. Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense in how they're all constructed together. So you mentioned the feedback that you got on this 350U prototype. That kind of leads me into this last talking point I wanted to get to, which was the tour adoption piece. So how these, obviously there's been a period of sort of working it into the tour players' bags. And it seems like every time there's a new, whether it is GT or whether it's, a new T-Series irons, it seems like the Titleist players just throw them in the bag right away. There's not really much hesitation usually. I imagine it was pretty similar in this process with the new T-Series.
Yeah. I think a lot has. I mean, that work starts years ago, right? Everything we meet with the tour regularly, and they have major input on the changes that are made to these products, and that comes directly from the tour player. So when JJ and Liam on DP World and Chloe on LPGA go out and go, hey, we did what you asked, they're like, okay, they're already kind of bought in already, because you're like, oh, great, fantastic. But yeah, irons are somewhat take longer to get in, right? Because irons, they're looking for a certain distance, flight. They want to know how it goes through the turf, through different conditions. They usually want to take it back to the home course to know, are they hitting their numbers? Is it doing what they're doing? But JJ, from when we launched it at Colonial, was just, blown away with just the adoption. There was up to nearly double-digit full set, like completely out of the bag, swapping into new T100s, and then plenty of long irons in the bag. From 100, 150s, the new utilities, 250s were put right into the bag. Even 350 long irons were put in the bag. So, and then every tour launch thereafter. So the next week at Memorial, the next week at the Canadian Open, and then at the Open. Every week, more and more players are adopting and putting new products. And that's not just here, in the US, DP World, Korn Ferry, Japan Tours, Korea. It's happening worldwide. So again, when you have a really good connected tour team that really listens to the tour players and then delivers what they're asking for, then it's pretty an easy conversation really to get these players playing these products.
Well, and speaking of the tour adoption, when players get fit, at second swing, there's some new tools as well with the series here. So I know there's a new hosel that we got. Lucas gave me the breakdown a little bit, but it seems like it works a lot like the current Sherford hosel for the metals, but it's just there's even more options. That's
right. Yeah, I mean, fitting is one of our main strategies, right? Because we know fitting can just unlock performance. And we have a new sleeve, a new SureFit sleeve and irons that is allowing us for more lie adjustments. So from 2 flat to 4 upright in 1 degree increments. And then simultaneously at the same time, you can change loft. So you can go 2 weak to 1 strong. So if you want to try a 2 upright and 2 strong or 2 weak at the same time, we can really dial in, the lie and the loft during your fitting experience. And then we can change head weight as well. So when we're going over length, or you want to try a lighter build for, maybe a different feel, we can change head weight as well. And then I know at second swing, we provide, those long iron kits, because an iron fitting is more than just a 7-iron, right? We believe you need to go and hit long irons as well to really get you that gapping. So at second swing, we provide you those long iron kits because, it's more than just a 7-iron fit. It needs to be a full iron bag fitting. So.
Right. As we just talked about the long irons, if you need one of those in the bag, or maybe it is a blending, a T100 to a T150, there's that whole conversation happens in every fitting. So go get fit, everybody watching and listening. The Titleist T-Series irons are fantastic. I got to hit them today. Phenomenal look, sound, feel. But again, the consistency on them is fantastic. So, Tom, thank you for chatting with us, giving us the breakdown. This was fantastic.
Great. Thank you. Anytime.
And that was Tom Fisher from the Titleist, podcast studio, talking about new Titleist T-Series irons. Always good to get kind of the background of how these, maybe the changes came about. I know a ton of their, the design comes from tour feedback, especially with 100 and 150. They talked about the spec changes a little bit there, but then I think they've really nailed it with this T250 and being a player's distance iron that looks so good. I think it's going to be a really good one for them.
Yeah, I mean, Titleist is all about blending their sets, and I think the way they modified that T250 to blend it with whether you're playing T150s, T100s, whatever, it just looks so much cleaner.
Yep.
They all look more similar to each other. I think that's a really good iron. And, T100, T150, they're always one of the top players' irons out there. And you kind of know, like, Titleist they don't change much when it comes to these irons because they perform so well as are. Just little, this one they changed the lofts a little bit to kind of meet the T100S's back in the day for LPGA players. Adds a little more bounce then for the PGA Tour players. So really interesting. It's just these minor tweaks, but it's all about tour feedback and then blending those sets together for players. So really good stuff. You can get fit for those today at Second Swing Golf. Let our fitters kind of dial in your specs, and if you need a blended set, they'll be there to help you, make sure you're playing the exact setup you need to optimize your game.
Yeah, I believe they say in terms of the tour builds that they do, something like 80% of them are a blended set of some kind where there's more than one model in the iron set. And it's kind of flipped where they think as of right now in the general public or most, average golfers, it's about 20% are playing some sort of blended set right now. So they're kind of saying, soon enough that trend will kind of match up a little bit better. But blended sets are important, and they can be valuable for a lot of golfers.
Yeah, I play one.
Yeah,
I highly recommend those long irons. You have a little hotter, more forgiving club at the top, easier to launch. It's money. I mean, I love my 4-iron.
Yeah, I mean I think we talked about a few weeks ago Cameron Young, who has like 4 different irons in his set. So not that you have to be or anybody's got to be that extreme about it, but it seems to be a very beneficial thing for any type of golfer, whether you're a weekend warrior or you're one of the best players in the world. So. So when it comes to YouTube coming up here, we've got a lot of stuff going on. We have this week for Live at Lunch a very special guest. Speaking of Titleist, we have Frederick Waddell, director of the golf ball product development, and he's going to join. We're going to talk through all things Titleist golf balls, the story of Pro V1, and kind of the last 25 years of how that ball has been so dominant in the game, but also just kind of in like market share, like why people love it so much, amateurs and pros alike. But then just go through the other options in the lineup as well. The better value ones there with maybe like Tour Soft, why that one is so good, kind of at that price point. Other things on the channel, we are kind of rolling through. We've got all kinds of comparisons up on the YouTube channel with Kevin. We're still rolling through those that we filmed when he was here. We also have some unique things from the tour trucks. We had a tour of the Callaway tour truck. Also later this week, we've got a fun one. We've got a build on the Ping Tour truck of the Neil Shipley Thriver. So that one, it's a club that I think hasn't gotten a ton of notoriety, but Neil Shipley's been one where he kind of asked Ping to do one several months ago, and then they kind of made it a quote-unquote mini driver for them. Yeah. So that's a fun one.
Oh, Neil Shipley, you'll see him on the PGA Tour next year.
Yes. I believe he just earned it by points on the Corn Ferry.
He won a couple events there. Yeah. And
he's got a bright future in the game.
He's But on the Second Swing side, we still have our clearance event going on, so go check that out. Great sets of irons, drivers, putters, you name it. Going for, pretty much can't beat prices, one of our biggest sales of the year, so take advantage of those. And then we do have, we got the Titleist launch this week. We do have a new Callaway wedge coming out here soon, and some other really cool products about to hit the market, so stay tuned for those because there's some very interesting ones coming out. So.
Yeah, some things that we can't quite say right now, but there's some cool things coming as well in the next couple of weeks, so stay tuned for that. And then of course, you got to subscribe. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Subscribe to the Second Swing Thoughts podcast, wherever you might be listening to this, whichever platform that is. And we will see you next week for another episode of Second Swing Thoughts.